Christ is risen. I never get tired of saying that. It is some good news. But of course, there's bad news when it comes with that good news, and that is death. Wouldn't you say? Couldn't we collectively agree that death sucks? I don't know if you could say sucks in church, but let's just try it. Death sucks. There's no doubt about it. I mean, 10 years ago, my dear sweet mother died, and I still think about her every March. Well, I think about her almost every day. You know how it goes. And we've been missing her, and just recently, our family dog, I mentioned this on Palm Sunday last week, our family dog of 16 years, our dear sweet Ruby, went on to her eternal reward. You know, all dogs go to heaven, right? Have you heard that? I know that's in the Bible somewhere, maybe not, but we're going to trust it this morning. And as Ruby was kind of coming to the end of her life, I would always say to her, hey, Ruby, go be with Grandma Pat. That's my mom. We always said that over and over. Grandma Pat always loved to buy Lydia an Easter dress as she was growing up. That was their big thing. Lydia hated dresses, but every year she would go with Grandma and buy a dress, and it was just so precious. And if you see Lydia today hiding eggs, what is she wearing? An Easter dress. And if you ask her why, it's in honor of Grandma Pat. You know, it's hard when we lose people that we love. And you can understand why these women who were going to the tomb, they were probably filled with a lot of that same kind of emotion. What do you suppose they were feeling when they had just seen Jesus killed mercilessly before them in the worst possible way you could imagine somebody dying? And now they've got to go take care of the body. I mean, what kind of emotions do you think are flowing through them? What are they feeling? Sadness, grief, yeah? Maybe some anger. What do you think? Would you be mad if you saw your Lord, your Rabbi, your Savior, your Messiah killed before your eyes? I mean, they've got a whole bunch of stuff they're bringing with them, I suppose, and you couldn't blame them for that. I think it was last Sunday, Cindy was doing kids' church with some of the boys, and she was telling the story of the crucifixion, you know, in a kid-friendly kind of a way. And she mentioned how one time Jesus was having so much trouble carrying his cross that he fell down. And one of the boys piped up immediately and said, I would help him carry it. And then another boy said, I would beat them up. We're all kind of a bundle of emotions, aren't we, when we have some? Sometimes we're just ready to go, throw down. And sometimes, boy, we're just a puddle on the floor. We don't even have words sometimes when death confronts us in such a harsh way. I mean, you've lost people, not just people. You've said goodbye to opportunities. You've lost things. You've lost stuff. You've lost experiences. Maybe your health isn't as good as it could be. I mean, there's so many ways that death reminds us that it has got a stinger, and it hurts an awful lot. But as these ladies are going to the tomb, I love this story because we get a sense on the first day of the week, Sunday. I think that's why we worship on Sunday. We never want to forget it. They came to the tomb taking spices that had been prepared, and they found the stone rolled away. Now, I don't know if you're an expert on gravestones, but they're supposed to stay closed. If you went to a graveyard and all the tombs were open, all the graves were unburied, you'd probably think you were in some kind of horror movie, I would guess. But no, in this particular instance, it is the best news ever. But they couldn't find the body. That's the problem. And so the scripture says that they were perplexed. So first they're sad or angry or disturbed or confused or just a puddle on the floor. And now they can't quite figure out what's going on. Have you ever been there? You're just thinking, what on earth are you doing, God? Where are you? What is happening? I'm feeling terrible, but now the terribleness has gone to utter confusion, where we just feel like discombobulated. Is that me again? All right, let me try this one. I was thinking about this state of confusion that we sometimes get into. And to me, I don't know. I just find myself becoming kind of short with people a little bit sometimes. When you're confused, you ever do that? Like you're understanding. You know, I know you're always also loving and kind, but every once in a while, does your fuse get a little bit shorter, and you just start going, "What is happening?" And I just wonder sometimes in our confusion if we're not ready to hear good news because we're carrying so much bad news along with us. You know, we all have baggage we need to be set free from. whether you've been a Christian for 100 years or whether you're new to faith or whether you don't know about any of this stuff. There's a lot of stuff we carry with us. And I think Jesus wants to set us free from that. In fact, the angel says to the women, "Why are you looking for the living among the dead?" And I think we make that mistake sometimes when we think about Jesus. We talk about him like he's in the past tense. Like Jesus, oh, he was such a great guy. Remember Jesus? He was awesome. What a great teacher he was. What a great moral example. But the problem with all of those is it sounds like he's dead and gone, turned to dust and not around anymore, which is not quite the Easter message. I don't know if you're aware of that, but the message is Christ is risen. Yeah, that's what we want to keep saying, and yet somehow in our flesh, in the world around us, we just keep going back to thinking, is he really alive? Can he really do anything? Is this really going to affect me in any meaningful kind of way? You know, they've done studies for years about the kind of religious climate in the country, and the Christians, you know, they make up about 66%, at least for people that talk to survey people. Have you ever gotten one of those calls and you said potential spam and you're like, I ain't answering that survey. You know, you just put it right back in. So people that are not smart enough to do that, I don't know how it goes, but about 66% of us register as Christians. Maybe a third of those are Catholic and the other 2/3 Protestant, different groups, you know, and what have you around there. So about 2/3 of the country. And they've also found that about 10% of people, they are other religions, you know, Jewish or Buddhist or Muslim. And you know, there's all these different religions out there. And then, of course, the one that has been interesting to watch over the last couple of decades has been the nuns. You know what I'm talking about when I say the nuns? I don't mean like the Catholic in the black garb and the habit, but N-O-N-E, the nuns, the no religious affiliation. That number has been climbing steadily for decades. It just now started to level out at about 22% is what they say. So 2/3 Christian, 10% something else, and then 22% of these. And the scariest thing about that number in my mind is the age demographic of those nuns is very, very young. And every year they get a little bit older. But the 2/3, they tend to be a lot older, like all of you old folks. Just kidding. We're all young and youthful and vigorous. I totally get that. But some churches have a lot of old people. That's what I've heard. But what I'm thinking about is the nuns in our midst. You know, what are we going to do with these nuns? And why are they nuns? Why have they decided they have no religious affiliation? You know, that lumps in all the agnostics. You know, people like that. Maybe some of you are like this. You're like, I don't know. That's what agnostic means. I just don't have any idea. Maybe that's a good place to be, because how could we possibly know? And then you get the atheists that have decided, I know. And what I know is there ain't nothing. And that's a sad place to be. You got to feel a little bit bad for some of the atheists. But I wonder if there's just some people in there that used to be in that Christian number. Ex-Catholics or ex-Lutherans or ex-Baptists or ex-non-denoms that for whatever reason they left the church. Maybe they were raised with the good news and they just decided, you know, I don't know if this is good news anymore. Or maybe a whole lot of death came and attacked them over the years. You know, sometimes churches eat people alive. It's an ugly thing. People have a lot of scars from churches. Not St. John's. We're perfect. Don't. Even churches like us, we don't always do what we should. Why? Because the church is filled with broken people. And broken people hurt each other. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. And it's a hard, hard truth that sometimes the people that have walked away from the church, not because of Jesus most likely, but because of his people. And so we want to say, Lord, what can we possibly do to help people get set free from that kind of experience? How can we release people from that kind of hurt and pain? And it doesn't have to be the nuns. It could be Christians that are still around today carrying a whole bunch of pain and burden from the church, from other people, from whatever. I mean, would you say we're all just loaded down with stuff? If we opened up our baggage, it'd be some scary stuff in there that we carry with us everywhere that we go. Jesus says, Jesus said it and John wrote it down. If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. That's the promise of Easter. That even though death sucks, which we can all readily admit, we can also say Jesus is alive. And if he is alive, then he can literally do anything. People don't normally come back from the dead. So if that is true, then surely he can set us free from sin and death, our own sinful flesh, the devil, the pain and suffering of the past, the unforgiveness, the bitterness, the healing we need, whatever it might be, Jesus can do it. Now, of course, when the ladies hear this, they are perplexed, but then it says they remembered. The angel said, "Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee, that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners and be crucified, and on the third day rise again." It says, then they remembered his words. You know, sometimes we just need to remember some important things. We forget stuff. I mean, I'm getting more forgetful as I get older. Maybe some of that's happening to you. Maybe you'll forget every word I say, but I hope what we can remember is that we need to remember. We need to remember the times that God was faithful to us. We need to remember the times when God came through, when his people came around us. If you got some of those positive experiences of the church or of faith or of God just speaking to you directly or just giving you a sense of peace, you want to hold those dear. Because in moments like those ladies had, walking to the tomb, they needed to remember. And thankfully, there was somebody there to remind them. Now, they were coming with a whole lot of baggage. We know some of these women by name. Luke lists some of them. We got Mary Magdalene. You remember Mary? She was the one of whom which 7 demons were cast out. I don't know how many demons you guys have, but I bet it's not 7. 1 or 2? What are you carrying with you today? Let's get rid of those, but 7 is a lot. Can we agree on that? It says Mary, and then it's got, a gal named Salome is mentioned by one of the other, not Salami, Salome, I think I'm saying that right. And then we got Joanna, one of the supporters of Jesus, massive financial supporter, we think. And then, of course, we get Mary, the mother of James, which is not the same as Mary, the mother of Jesus. And she's sometimes called the other Mary, because we got Mary Magdalene, we got Mary, the mother of Jesus, and then there's that other Mary. But she's an important person. You talk to her in heaven. She'll have some good stories to tell. But all these women, they come with all kinds of baggage, all kinds of hurt, just like we do. How are we going to get set free from that? You know, we were talking about my dear dog, Ruby, and one of the things she used to do, pretty much once she grew out of being a puppy, she was the fastest dog ever. You ever know how dogs run so fast that you can't even keep track of them? They're like the Flash or just this massive silver bullet, just zooming around. And she would do that in the house and do that in the house and do that in the backyard and do that. Every once in a while, someone would make the mistake of opening the front door. Have you ever done that with a dog that likes to run? And that's what she would do. She would shoot out the front door. And, of course, we were terrible owners of Ruby. We never trained her properly, or we tried to train her, but we didn't know how to train her, and I'll take all the blame. But she would just run around the neighborhood like a crazy person. I mean, literally, just like, and you'd come up to her, and she'd be like, and then she would just run away as fast as she could, and there was no way she was coming back into our home. And I thought, okay, well, this is the day Ruby meets that great doghouse in the sky, you know, because we lived on a kind of a busy street. But Cindy had the brilliant idea. She would come out to the front yard with Ruby's leash, and she would click the leash. Tink, 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 tink. You know how leashes do that? That was a perfect impression. I can't believe you're not impressed. Tink, 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 tink. And you know what Ruby would do in those moments? She would run over to Cindy. Why? Because in her brain, tink, tink, tink means I'm going for a walk. Not the smartest dog on the planet, you know. These are not the bomb-sniffing dogs. These are not the dogs doing brain surgery. This is a different kind of dog. So sweet, but dumb as a post. That's just the way that we remember her. But, you know, I think sometimes you and I are like that a bit, aren't we? We get set free from something. We find God gives us some power to say no and say yes to some more positive things. We get on the path with him. And then all of a sudden, somebody goes, tink, tink, tink. And we start running back to that kind of slavery. We start running back to that baggage, and we just pick it up again as if it's ours. And it's not. Jesus has already taken care of it. You know, next week, Pastor Carl is going to be here. He's an amazing, amazing preacher. I encourage you to come because he's got a story that just blows my mind. He's this super fit guy. You know, he could run marathons. He travels all over the world. I mean, he's just way too good looking for my taste. But he's a really, really great guy and a fantastic preacher. But, I don't know, a year or two ago, he got cancer, bad in his bladder. And just, it could have been the end. You know how cancer is. You don't know. How's it going to go? And you always worry and you always pray and all of that. But he's going to share a little bit about his journey of being set free from that cancer. And as of today, there's no cancer in his body. He's fully healed. It's like it was never there. I don't want to steal his message because you're just gonna love it. It's so encouraging to me. But I mean, if God can do that, what can't he do? I mean, if God can just take care of that, what couldn't he release? And I think whether you're a nun or whether you're a longtime Christian or somewhere in between, my sense is we all have that tendency to just fall back into our stuff instead of embracing the new life that Jesus gives. Now, these women, they were pretty transformed. They ran back to tell the guys, and the guys, not their brightest moment, and they've had some pretty dull bow moments. I don't know if you've followed the life of the disciples much, but not always the smartest, more like my dog, you might say, in some ways. But they run back and they say, hey, Jesus is not here. He is alive. And that's some good news. And the guys, the 11 that were left, you know, they say, to them it seemed like an idle tale. Now, I hope, women, you are feeling some real umbrage about that. And you were just like, men are pigs, they're so dumb. That's what I came to church to learn. No, hopefully we've put all that behind us. And when the women come saying some good news, the guys will say, yes, we believe you this time. We know that it's true. But what is exciting about that is because they were set free, because they were transformed, because they remembered, they wanted to go share the news with other people. And so they tell Peter and the 11, and and Peter and John, the Bible tells us they run to the tomb. I mean, I wonder what story you could tell of being set free that would cause people to run to find Jesus. I mean, that's why we're here, right? To encourage each other to do just that. Not to keep this good news to ourselves, but to literally say, Lord, where, who, how can I possibly share this transformation? And if you're feeling like I am, Lord, I still need to have some work done. I still need some chips to come off. I still need to be molded to be more like you, Lord Jesus. I hope you'll be with us for these next 6 weeks where we can talk about ways that the Lord can set us free. Not just from bad habits or thought patterns or ill health or whatever it is that might be kind of holding us back. We just want to embrace that the Lord can do anything. And of course, Peter gets to the tomb. When Peter meets Jesus, I mean, it's incredible. All of the disciples, they go from being fearful and wretched and not so bright to these massive powerhouses of the resurrection power of Jesus. And of course, we know this gift is free. It was available to them. It's available to us. It's free, but it's not cheap.